Welcome to ChiroSphere, where we talk about all things chiropractic and some things not so chiropractic. I'm Dr. Ray Foxworth, your host for ChiroSphere and CEO of Chiro Health USA, the network that works for chiropractic. Today on ChiroSphere, we're excited to welcome Dr. Elizabeth Hoefer, a chiropractor, educator, policy leader who brings a rare blend of advanced clinical experience and professional advocacy to the chiropractic profession. In addition to her clinical work, Dr. Hoefer serves as professional policy and nominations director on the California Chiropractic Association board and as a board certified Blair technique instructor. She also teaches as associate faculty at Palmer College, Life Chiropractic College West, and Southern California University, helping shape the next generation of chiropractors. She's also the host of the Well Connected podcast, where she continues to elevate conversations around upper cervical care, patient connection, and professional growth. Today, we'll explore Dr. Hoefer's journey, her passion for upper cervical care, and her perspective on leadership, education, and the future of chiropractic. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. What an introduction that was.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have people read these intros about it and say, boy, my mother would be proud.
Right? It makes me feel tired just listening to it. I was like, gosh, I've done a lot and I'm young.
Yeah, that's actually what struck me whenever I saw your headshot come in. I said, wow, this is one busy lady. And I absolutely love that about you and others who get in and get involved and literally from the get-go,
Mhm.
because it is your profession. While it's our profession, it's your future. And I see too many people coming out of school and they're my Lord, you just went through trauma of the school, but man, if you want to change your future and your trajectory, just say yes, get involved, and show up. So I'm off my soapbox on that one. Thanks for doing so.
Absolutely.
So let's start with your story. I always like to ask about your why and what drew you to chiropractic. So, what was your first exposure to chiropractic, and how did you end up in this crazy, wonderful profession?
Oh my goodness, it's such a cool story. Believe it or not, I was born in Davenport, Iowa, and I grew up in Davenport, Iowa. And I took a part-time job working at Palmer College of Chiropractic when I was 21 years old. I really didn't have a lot of direction in my life as far as any kind of champion for going to college or anything like that. But one of my dear friend's mothers was the staff director. And she said, Liz, why don't you just take a part time job here working nights until you quote unquote figure out what you want to do with your life? And I was like, hey, nothing better going on. I was a single mom, I had a kid, and I needed a job and I needed some direction. And so, at the behest of Kim Hutchison, I took the job and started working at the main clinic, helping the student doctors check in their patients from the community.
Mhm.
And having grown up under chiropractic care, I had an idea of what I thought chiropractic was, but I had no idea how much of an impact and what a calling this was going to be in my life. So I give all credit to Kim Hutchison, who has retired from Palmer and moved to the South and she was a champion in my life in a time where I needed help and I needed guidance, and her offer literally changed my life. So I got a job, worked at Palmer, started recognizing the power of chiropractic in everyday life, not just when you had a headache or if you got in a car accident. And I played sports in high school, so I always went to the chiropractor when I had like a sports injury. um but once I started working at the clinic and getting regular chiropractic care and having the conversation and seeing people from the community come in with student doctors leaving 25 minutes later, literally healed, I was like, what is this? And so I started looking into maybe becoming a bigger part of the profession as far as assisting the doctor. And at that time, Palmer College offered a chiropractic technology degree. So it
Mhm.
was like the assistant, right? The nurse to the medical doctor, if you will. And I enrolled in that program. I got a field scholarship because I was working in the field at the school. And I started taking classes and I was like so fascinated and so intrigued and absolutely enamored with all things anatomy, all things science. And halfway through that program, I realized I don't want to be the assistant. I want to be the doctor. I want to understand
Yeah.
why and call the shots. I don't think I've ever been one that took direction very well. I always wanted to be the one making the rules. And so I finished my CT program. During that time, I also started getting my prerequisites for my bachelor's degree. I didn't want to be, hindered in any way by going to a state that needed a bachelor's before you got your DC degree. So I ended up getting my bachelor's degree. And I then started chiropractic school, DC school, in the fall of 2004. And it was really neat. I remember sitting down and matriculating into my first class and being like, okay, listen, I don't need friends. I've got that. I grew up here. I'm good. I don't need community. I don't need to know any of these students. I just need to get through DC school so I can get on with my life and become a chiropractor. And that was a silly thing to think because some of the most amazing people that are in my life still are people that I met in my class in 2004. And without them, I would not be where I am. So, community is essential to the way that I live my life. It's the way that I practice. It's the reason why I've been able to be as involved and as successful in my young career. Now, mind you, it's been 17 years, so I'm not that young, but thinking about all the things that I was able to do, it was because I was involved in community and I was invited in and I accepted that invitation. Chiropractic found me, it saved me, and I couldn't be more proud to be a chiropractor. And I remember hearing there's no better time to be a chiropractor in 2004. I can't say that that's not any different, if not more important in 2026.
I could not agree more. There are certainly things that we need to have improved, and there are groups that are working on that, like the strategic plan that we're involved in, and hopefully we will see some of those changes. Something you said when you first began really, I really connected with. You, there was a person. So you said
Mhm.
it was Dr. Hutchinson.
Not even a doctor. She was a
Oh,
staff director. So
okay,
she was in charge of the staff. Yes.
got it. But the fact that she took the time to encourage you,
Yes.
you probably had no idea at the time what impact that had. And
No.
the reason I bring that up is I love being an encourager. I love to see people grow, to see them turn into what I think they can be versus what their limitations they may have in their head.
Uh-huh.
And I think the reason I connect with that story is I went to chiropractic college when I was 26. I had a son that was a couple of years old. I mean, we literally packed up in a matter of 3 weeks once I made the decision to go, and we went. And I had never, ever been involved in anything like student government or, the organization around high school and junior
Mhm.
college and like that. And for whatever reason, our first day of class, when we had to elect a class president, I mean, keep in mind, that just I'm the guy that played in the band with the long hair, and I was not exactly student government, student council
Right?
material early on. But a classmate of mine, and I'll never forget him, Stephen Westoff. I don't know where he is today, but he was in our class. But he nominated me to be president of our class. And I went, "Holy crap! I've never done anything like that." And oh my gosh, getting me involved early on that first day in school, I cannot tell you how much I have learned and gained from just somebody saying, "Hey, I think that guy could do it," have a little confidence. I don't know why. I mean, we chit-chatted a little bit, but I really credit him and my folks certainly, but I credit him for getting me to go in a direction that I would have never chosen for myself. So I dwell on that because you never know what one little word of encouragement, one attaboy, attagirl does for someone, and they make an impact on our life. It certainly sounds like that was the case with you as well.
Absolutely.
So you graduate, you go into practice, you go into solo practice or a group practice or
So I grew up in Iowa and I wanted to get away from winter. And I think you can appreciate that because
mm,
I think you live in this beautiful place called the Gulf Shore.
yeah.
So I left Iowa with big dreams and literally moved to Southern California knowing two people in a county. They lived in LA County and I was going to start working in Orange County. I moved my 10th try. So I went on my preceptorship and it was California or bust. I literally moved with my daughter and then my fiance, who's now my husband of almost 18 years to Orange County, California with $2,000 of student loan money. My husband had a great career in Iowa and he quit his job and had nothing lined up. Now, this is 2008. And if y'all remember that time, it was like
Oh,
the
yeah.
recession. It was gnarly. And I moved from one of the most affordable places to live in the country to probably the most unaffordable place. But I just knew that I was being called to California and I knew that I was going to change the world. And so I had this amazing technique. I had this amazing healing. I had my whole life was just on and popping, as they say. And I was so ready. So we moved to Southern California and I did my internship and I was able to just transform my life in a short period of time as a student intern in a county where I knew no one.
It's amazing. So at what point did you get introduced to Blair technique? Why do you think he gravitated to that?
Yeah, so when I was in chiropractic college, I suffered significantly with depression and even suicidal ideology, and it was a struggle to get through school. And it wasn't because I wasn't academically, doing great. I did okay school wise. It was just the fact that I had a hard time getting to school because it was so hard to get out of bed, and there was just such abject trauma in my life. And I look back and I think, gosh, how did I do it? But again, it was community. It was Angela. It was Jackie. It was Patrick. These people who hung in there with me and helped me study and read the notes that they heard in class if I didn't make it to class that day. And the Blair correction came when I was in eighth trimester at Palmer College. And it was basically an ultimatum by my best girlfriend in chiropractic school. And she said, "You haven't tried everything. You haven't tried Blair. And I'm not going to help you anymore unless you try this thing because I think it's going to help you." So one upper cervical correction literally changed the direction of my life. And I loved chiropractic. I loved the Palmer way. I loved the triune of the art, the philosophy, and the science. And when I was going through school there, it was so balanced. It was so amazing. But the Blair upper cervical correction, that October 27, 2007, it literally changed my life for the better. And I was convinced in that moment after that adjustment that the rest of my life was going to be dedicated to talking about the power of upper cervical, the power of chiropractic, and I needed to tell everyone I knew, which is why I went in 2008 in the summer to California and just started changing Orange County about Blair. So I then, became an instructor, and that was at the behest of an attorney slash chiropractor whose patient I had worked on. He had a client that had been involved in a car accident. I did a Blair correction on him, and he called and he's like, "What did you do? Who are you? This dude's seen 5 other people. Nobody's helped him, and I need to know about this." And so when he got exposed to upper cervical, he was like, "You need to start teaching this to the doctors in Orange County and also everywhere." So I was certified through the Blair Society at a very kind of early part of my career. And that kind of launched me into leadership in the California Chiropractic Association. It
Mhm.
launched me into leadership in the Blair Association. And that trajectory has led me to now, having my own amazing practice, training like 20 different students throughout my career, launching several associates to successful practice, and just being more excited than ever to bring the message of upper cervical, bring the message of chiropractic, and also just like the confidence in knowing that we have this thing called chiropractic and it is a sacred trust and we get to protect it through the policies that we organize through our state associations, through our, federal organizations and beyond.
So amazing story. As you preface this, it sounds vaguely familiar. Like I said, I decided to go to chiropractic college when I attended a convention with my folks. They were both chiropractors, had never encouraged me to go to chiropractic college. And I happened to hear Sig Miller, who was out of New Jersey, speak at our state convention in Mississippi. And I'll never forget, I went to my folks after that weekend and just something had clicked because I hadn't found my way either.
Mhm.
I literally ran a Firestone, worked at Tower Alone. I worked on a catfish farm. I'd found all the things I didn't want to do the rest of my life.
Right?
Um, and while I knew that my folks were chiropractors, when you grow up as a chiropractic child, I don't think you always have the full appreciation of what your parents do because that's what mom and dad do. Um, And while they may have shared the story with me over the years, nothing ever really clicked. And when I heard Sig speak, it's like, wow, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. Um,
100%.
and I'd already done some, pre-med undergrad stuff, so I didn't lack that many hours to go. But I literally went to my folks' house, my wife and I said, "I've decided to go to chiropractic college." And my and my dad said, "Well, have you thought about this long?" I said, "Yeah, for about a week now, ever since the convention." He said, "Well, have you saved up any money?" And I opened up my wallet and I said, "I got $11."
Oh my goodness.
Swear to God, 2 weeks later, we packed up our Datsun B210, headed off to Kansas City, and never looked back. I mean, it
That's
just
incredible.
yeah, well, it is one of those things when you know, and
Mhm.
I didn't know up until that point, but man, what a journey it's been.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, and I often think now it's like, as much as I've done in chiropractic, I'm so passionate about, like, being a good entrepreneur and learning business, and that's one of the things you do in with your Chiro Health USA and making sure doctors are compliant and that they're not harming themselves in the practice of doing business, right?
Uh,
So, a lot of stuff now is starting to come up, like, I wonder how much more or how many more years I'm gonna wanna be at this level as far as, like, the intensity at which I operate. And, I'm 45, and I would say probably 20 years from now, I maybe am not going to want to work as much as I want to work right now. And I think about the legacy that I want to leave and the who's going to take over because well connected is going to live on, right?
mhm.
Um, and I think out of all of my girls, I have 3 daughters, and the baby I was referring to back when I was a single mama, she's now 26 with 2 beautiful children of her own. And she has just grown up in that chiropractic lifestyle. She gave birth to her babies at home, no vaccines, all the good stuff, right? And out of all 3 of my kids, I think my youngest is probably the most likely to become a chiropractor. And I have a cute story to tell you. Just last week, she's 12. She just texted me. She was at school and she said, "Mama, um, there's a girl here who really needs to come in and see you. Can you get her in today?" And I was like, "Honey, we have to talk to her parents. They have to, her daddy needs to bring her in and we'll have to kind of organize that." And she's like, "Well, can't you just get her in today, Mom? She's really hurting and I know you'd help her." And I thought, how sweet for my child to be at school seeing another child suffering and she has a solution. And she's asking her mama, can she bring her in? And I said, "Well, we gotta get her daddy to, sign the papers, and then we gotta figure out how it's gonna work." And she's like, "Well, how much does it cost?" And I said, "Well, I don't think you need to worry about that. That's something that I get to talk to her dad about." And she's like, "Well, I'll pay for it."
Wow.
And I thought, wow, thank God. Somewhere, some way, this child has figured out that there is value for this child to get another, to get a person into my clinic. And she's like willing to pay
Mm,
whatever the cost is as a 12-year-old girl to have her friend get in to see me at the office. And I was like, I think I've done something right in my life. And this
no
is such a
doubt.
beautiful thing.
That is impressive. I mean, clearly she's while you may think she's in the room and not paying attention, she's clearly been
Right.
in the room and paying attention.
And it's giving me goosebumps all over my whole body just
Uh,
to know the impact. Like you said, like you were growing up and your parents were chiropractors and you were around it. And then somewhere along the way, that seed was watered. And then that convention was like, this is it. I have figured it out. And in 3 weeks, you took your family and moved away and never looked back. And look at the empire that you've been a part of to be able to make a difference in our profession. So I really hope that my sweet little Claire picks up the mantle and carries it forward. And obviously, all of my girls are invited into the same opportunity. And also, what I love is being in practice and taking care of children and seeing their lights turn on. There's been so many people that I've taken care of that have gone to chiropractic school because of the impact that their care has made in their life. And being able to see them grow in that manner has been such a blessing for me too.
yeah, that's always a lot of fun to see. They say a leader's not a leader until they create a leader who creates a leader.
Isn't
And
that cool?
yeah, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. That's a great story about your daughter. That's one I'll remember for a long time. So, in a nutshell, I mean,
Yeah,
there's 100 and last count I saw over 100 different chiropractic techniques.
right.
And I was talking to a colleague of mine who's not in Well, they're in chiropractic, but peripherally.
Mhm.
We were talking about one of the challenges that the profession has had is being able to scale itself because, I mean, from a consumer standpoint, you decide to go see a chiropractor and you don't know what you're walking into. It could be somebody doing functional medicine. It could be sports and rehab. It could be Blair technique. It could be Cox, flexion distraction. And so there's always this struggle of, well, I went to that chiropractor and I'll never go to another one. Little do they know that's like going to one restaurant and saying, well, that was a bad meal. I'm never going to eat again. What an idiot.
That's right.
But
That's right.
But because of the variability that we have in our profession, that's also one of the things that does make it difficult. We haven't, in my mind, I'm looking this from an evolution standpoint, not evolution
Mhm.
as in Darwin, but a
Yeah, just
progression
being
of
able to
thought.
survive and, like, grow and, like you said, make an impact and scale.
Yeah. So, I mean, think back to when there was just dentists and all they did was pull teeth, that because they were hurt or they were infected. And
Mhm.
then there were dentists who started doing some cosmetics and then some who started doing surgery and then some who started doing, and I don't think we've evolved like, say, the dental profession has.
Sure.
There are specialists who do this technique or take this approach. I don't know how long it'll take, but I think it'll certainly at some point bring a lot more clarity to the public about if they've had good results with Blair technique or with flexion distraction, they know to go see someone who does that.
Right.
Um, and so I don't know if we'll ever get there, but the problem is so bad that you
Mm.
stop and think about it. When you try to refer a patient to another city or another state, how easy is it for you to find somebody?
Well, that's the thing, and that's why the Blair Society exists, and I've been a part of the leadership for a very long time. We are, you know, one of our missions is Blair to the world, and really we're starting to see it. So I have wonderful friends and colleagues that are now, across the globe in different continents, in different countries, and as an instructor for the society, we have summits where we meet and refine our technique, kind of checks and balances, iron sharpen iron, right? And um, we are developing that network so that you can go onto blairchiropractic.com and search for a doctor to find out if there is somebody in, let's say, Mississippi, or if there is a doctor in the UK. And thankfully, the doctors that are training are also sending. And so there are doctors that are moving to places that have been trained and are well prepared to be able to take on that community. Um, I, for whatever reason, have trained a lot of docs that like to stay in Orange County. So there's lots of chiropractors in Orange County that do
Mhm.
Blair now. And when I showed up, there was like two. And so it's really neat to see it growing. But to your point, I think like back to my original comment, community has been something that I've been so fierce about since my journey into chiropractic. And when I started working in the California Chiropractic Association at the local level, the thing that I really harped on the most was intra-doctor referral within chiropractic.
Yeah.
So if I do upper cervical, but I know somebody needs to have a distraction or um a pregnancy thing. It's not my specialty, but I know who I can refer to. So I made it a big deal for me to always make sure that I referred my patients to people that had that specialty. And I grew this beautiful network inside of chiropractic. And I have a great network of paraprofessionals, doctors, dentists, naturopaths, all that too. But even within our profession, I think medicine has done that well. Like you have your cardiologist and you have your
Yep.
nephrologist and you have your, whatever specialist. Chiropractic can take a lesson in that because we're not competition. We're collaborative. And we
I would.
all have the thing that we're attracted to because of our special set of circumstances and the way that our minds work. So I refer people to my good friend who is a dipsy, or I should say a DAPSI, like nutritionist, internist kind of thing. And she is in Indiana, but my patients at Well Connected see her for telehealth visits for their nutrition
Yeah.
because she's the best one I know in that arena. And she happens to have a chiropractic practice in Indiana. So I've always made it a really big deal to refer within my own profession. And the other thing I love about upper cervical is that I got to be a part of the diplomate program for upper cervical, the diplomate and cranial junction procedures. and craniocervical junction procedures. And so that council exists to bring all the upper cervical techniques together because we're all thinking in the same manner. We just approach it in a different way and how we actually perform the correction. But the way that we're trying to think about it is similar. And so instead of being little islands, AO and orthospinology and EPIC and NUCA, we come together and we collaborate our brilliant minds so that we can enhance the ability for people to understand what upper cervical chiropractic is. So joining together and not being an island, not being a solo person, but into community and bringing the gifts that you have in collaboration has been transformative for me personally, but also for the people that I get to take care of. Because when I have a friend that or a patient that moves from Orange County to Fort Collins, I'm going to refer them to my friend Jane, who does orthospinology, and she's a really phenomenal upper cervical chiropractor. And yes, it's a little different, but my patients are getting excellent care there too. So it's really fun.
It's unfortunate, but for a lot of us in the profession, we tend to look at our colleagues as our competition, and nothing could be further from the truth. It's
Amen.
almost like, well, there's this scarcity mindset of there's not enough patients. And I always say there are plenty of patients, but there's not enough people who know they need to go to a chiropractor.
That's
And so
right.
why don't we focus on that instead of me being your competition and you being mine? Let's promote the profession and more people will go see the chiropractor. It is I don't understand, never have understood that mindset. I mean,
Yeah,
our practice, we absolutely refer to other chiropractors. I mean, sometimes, it's a patient doctor match. Just something's not working. Something's not fixing.
exactly.
Give it a reasonable period of time.
100%.
If it's not, say, you know what? I'm going to send you to my chiropractor, you know,
Yep.
and not be afraid
That's exactly
to do
right,
that.
and that's why I think that I have had such a successful practice and, ability to grow in leadership as a young person in the field because I was collaborative and I didn't see people as competition, I saw them as collaborators. Um, I'm like the, like, consummate extrovert, I just like to be around people and they feed me and it just fuels my tank, and so I wanna be with people all the time, and why wouldn't I wanna be around people who are like-minded and think like me and practice in the same vein with natural approach to healthcare. So the funnest things I get to do, like my kids and my family know if we're going on vacation, it's going to have some kind of chiropractic conference attached to it, because it's just the funnest thing in the world. But to
Well,
your
it's also
point
a
about
great tax
competition,
strategy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to your point about competition, even this morning I was looking on a women's chiropractic channel and there was this lady who said, I've never thought of having a chiropractor down the street or in the same town or maybe even on the same block as my competition. But my landlord just came to me and said, "Hey, there's a chiropractor who wants to rent the space above me in the same building." And she's like, all of a sudden, a little nervous about that. And I was like, the neighbor isn't the issue, your mindset is. And so when you get over this scarcity speed bump, I'm so excited to see where you will go with opening up your heart and mind to making chiropractic more famous and more well known. If there were 10 chiropractors in the building that I lived in, that would be a mecca for the chiropractic profession. And it would be an amazing energy and synergy that I would love to be a part of.
Yeah, that has, I have talked about this so many times that if we would take the best of the best, say, out of the orthopedic community, the legal profession, uh, GI docs, you rarely see a standalone orthopedic or a standalone, individual practice of GI docs or dental. I mean, they understand that if there's 10 chiropractors in the town, there is no reason to have 10 separate locations, 10 x-ray machines, 10 of this, 10 of that. It would make a lot more sense if we got out of the way of our stinking thinking and say, you know
Mhm.
what? Wow, how think of the energy that would be in a practice with multiple doctors. They're all seeing their own patients. They may treat a little bit different. So now you don't have to send them down the street. You send them down the
Right.
hall.
Amen.
And just the economies of scale to have a multi-doctor, clinic, whether you include other professions or not, that's up to you. But, you got 10 independent clinics that are all spending money doing marketing. Imagine what could be done if they pool those resources and really got the word out about the
That's
profession.
right. That's right.
And quite frankly, I think that the economy or the economies in chiropractic are starting to force that, even though
Mhm.
some may not think they like that. And then once they do it, I know in my world, when I added associates, it was like, holy cow, I actually have a life now. They
Mhm.
have a life, and I'm every employee I've ever had. I mean, all the ones that I have at Chiro Health, the ones I had at the clinic. My line is, it's my job to make sure this is the best job that you ever had. And they look
I
at me like,
love that.
what? And I said, think about it. I say, quite frankly, it's for selfish reasons because if you got the best job you ever had, you're not looking, you're not leaving, you're not sabotaging, you're part of the team. You feel like you got a vested interest here. So you're damn right. I want this to be the
Amen.
best job you ever had because I don't ever want you to leave unless you need
Absolutely.
to leave. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. And for so many docs, I missed a lot of my kids growing up, my 2 boys,
Mhm.
and we had a daughter later in life, and we didn't miss a thing because I was at a different place in time.
Amen. I hear you.
We had doctors, and I could go to her events, and I've got 2 young docs that are younger docs that bought the practice for me, and that was always our deal. Family comes first. You got something your
Mhm.
kid's gonna be performing, you better be in the front row, and don't worry about
Mhm.
practice, it'll be here when you get back, and
Yeah.
man, what a liberating way to have a career and have a life at the same time. Because right now, a solo practice can be such a ball and chain. I mean, it
It
really
yes, absolutely, and, I'm not experiencing that because, the more years I go into practice and having great coaches, it's like your practice is always gonna be there, and whatever headache you wanna find, you'll find it, but how about we just come at it with more ease and more wonder and more, joy? And I'm in the process of training my next associate. She's there as a preceptor, postceptor. She's graduated. We're just working on boards, and then she'll join the practice as an associate. But the cool thing is, like, I took, 10 days off over the Christmas holiday. My family went to the Bahamas, and we went on a cruise, and then I came back, and I could have gone back to work and, like, hustled and grinded the end of the year, but I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna rest," and my patients were so grateful that I did that because if I'm a well-rested, balanced person, then they're getting a better version of me as their doctor when I show back up, and so
you know,
they all, like, "Take the time. We'll be here. We're not going anywhere. We love you. We're grateful that you can take rest." And so I think it's so important to have that mindset with your team, and you're right. I want every one of my team members to be so happy and be so fulfilled that they don't wanna look anywhere else, and they wanna recruit people to come work for us so that
there
we
you go.
can keep scaling and having that impact, and so I love that that's what you've always done. I didn't get raised in chiropractic in that way. It was, you know, you show up sick, you show up grinding, and so I got burned out, and then I had to figure out that's not the way that I wanna do things, and so over these last few years since the pandemic, because it really did show us you can do things different.
Uh-huh.
Being a part of kind of that shift globally has actually been so impactful for my health and for the health of the way that I run my business. And I would say the 17 employees that I have all love to come to work every day. And the minute they don't, they get to go succeed elsewhere. And it's okay. Like it's okay to let people move on and decide that they get to do something else.
Sometimes it's the kindest thing you do
Mhm.
to help them move on, because
That's right.
change is hard for anyone. And when it was
Yeah.
time for us to terminate someone, the other thing they knew was, if you let me know you're leaving, I'm not gonna fire you on the spot. We'll let you work until you find something you do need if you're not happy.
Right.
If they're not happy coming to work, it affects everybody.
Absolutely.
There's no way around it. Well,
Absolutely.
hang tight while we take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Welcome back to the podcast with Dr. Elizabeth Hoefer. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Very good. I nailed it. So tell me a little bit about your work with Dr. Barbara Eaton. I understand you're doing some coaching. Are you coaching with her group or is she coaching you? I wasn't quite sure what the structure
Yeah.
was there, or
Yes.
relationship.
So Barbara has been my coach since 2020. I started group coaching with her with my team and then quickly moved into individual private coaching. And now I feel like we've just become such dear friends. I almost feel like I have a voice into her life, and I get to offer insight that, I mean, once you develop a deep relationship with somebody, you have the privilege, and so it's an honor and a privilege to be able to, offer insight for her too. But we have worked together for now almost 6 years, and it's a beautiful thing, and I am very grateful for her leadership, her guidance, and her transformation, because as a coach in her profession and growing her business, she has transformed and done some amazing changes, in her offering as well. So I am so grateful for that. I've referred so many people, so many of my colleagues, to coach with her and to take their teams through the things that she's offered, and through the relationship capital that I have from her, I've had opportunities to coach with Gary Gunderson and Mike McAllowitz, and people that are outside of our profession that are equally as influential in their arena. And it's been a really awesome thing to get to be a part of such greatness.
Yeah, I will tell you that like most chiropractors, when I got out of school, my first consultant was Dr. Peter Fernandez. I don't know if anybody still remembers Dr. Pete. I think he's still kicking. Uh, I was fresh out of school, and even though I had parents that were both chiropractors, I was opening up in a different town. And every consultant I've had, and sometimes it wasn't a good fit. Most of the time it was, but I learned something from all of them.
Hmm.
And,
Amen.
when we deal with thousands of doctors and have over the years, and it is amazing how many people are out there struggling. And if they just would get their mindset right to where, you know what, it's okay to have a coach. In fact, it's a
Yes.
coach, because let's see, who is that guy? Tiger Woods. I think he's got
Yeah.
a coach. And so, if the best of the best see value in having someone on the outside looking in and guiding you and mentoring you and saving you some stupid tax and helping you build and grow, yeah, you can go learn all of that stuff on your own, and it's going to take
Hmm.
a whole lot of time. If
Hmm.
we're smart, we will tap into what's already known, what's been tried and true, and multiplied by several different locations, so you know the process of the procedure
Yep.
work. And I just I would encourage. There are some that are such renegades they're never going to listen to anybody, and that's okay. You know,
Hmm.
we call those ask holes. You ever heard that term?
Yes, I say that a lot.
They ask you questions, you give them answers, and then they don't do anything different. So.
And I try not to be one of those, so I appreciate that. That's so funny.
Yeah, but anyway, my point being, I hear a lot of pros and cons and a lot of stuff in the chatter on Facebook and other groups about, oh, you don't need a coach. Everything you need is out there, in the internet and Chat GPT. And while, yeah, it's great resources, we even have Chiro AI, which is free to the profession if anybody wants to
Mhm.
tap into that. Um, but there is some, you don't get the camaraderie, you don't get the connection, you don't get the tribal effect of being with a group, and I think that is
Yep.
so critical.
Yep.
We already operate as such islands, and just knowing you can pick up the phone and call somebody that knows you, knows the insight to your practice, where you got things to bounce, just to bounce it off of them. And if you decide not to do what they say, that's okay. But you went
Mhm.
through the process and you affirmed that what you were doing was a better step than maybe what they.
Sure. Yeah, and I've talked about this a few times. I read this book probably a decade ago. It's called The Divine Mentor, and it's a book about basically reading the Bible and understanding how to read scripture. But the pastor wrote it in such a cool way, and he talks about there's two teachers in life: wisdom and consequence.
Mhm.
And what you were just talking about kind of made that thought happen. It was like, from wisdom, I'm going to learn from others who have gone before me that have insight and stuff that I wouldn't have thought of, or I don't see it because I haven't got there yet. And then consequence, geez, I'd rather learn from wisdom because consequence is painful sometimes. And yeah, I don't understand this scarcity mindset that our profession has been stuck in for so long, and this nonsense of like everything's available. I mean, I guess that's true. And why wouldn't you want to do it easier and like have somebody, like you said, to bounce ideas off of? So
Yeah.
I've had 3 coaches at one time. I've had in my very, very first coach, when I was leaving my associateship, because I had worked as an associate for it seemed like an eternity. And maybe in the worlds of associates, it was 13 years that I had two babies and I was raising up in the political arena. And so it made sense for me to stay as an associate until it didn't. And then Iram Tahir, she was my first
Mhm.
coach, and she really taught me about business. She taught me about care plans and about communication. And it wasn't chiropractic stuff. And now she's an amazing chiropractor and she's a great, business coach. And so she was my first coach. And I am so grateful because she helped me lay the foundation for the early days of Well Connected. And then Barbara came in with mindset, and it was just such a neat thing. And now I feel like now I get to like help lead the doctors that I get to train and employ and educate them on all the amazing things that I've learned. And so it's about that, like you said, the leaders build leaders, and then those leaders build leaders. And so I have chiropractors that I've trained that are now training people, and it's such a beautiful thing to see in just my short 17 years of practice. It's almost like I have grandbabies in the profession, and I never thought that I would ever see that because I never looked at myself as a leader. I just kept asking questions and kept learning from the greats and also learning what not to do. There was a lot of people that taught me what I didn't want to do. Like you said, you were a catfish
Oh,
farmer. I
yes.
didn't want to do that the rest of my life, and I learned real quick that's not what I wanted to do, so I learned from that too.
Some of the best advice in life is not from people who tell you how to do something right, but
That's
from
right,
observing people who are doing things wrong and not following
and
in the footsteps. That
that's
is
learning from wisdom right there.
priceless. Yeah. So you mentioned something a minute ago. I have a theory as to why there is this poverty mindset in
Mm.
chiropractic, and it may be valid or not, but it's my opinion, and I'm the world's foremost expert on my opinion. How in the world do you take a student in chiropractic college, have them in a clinic, and let's face it, our clinics are not all of them. I don't want to paint it with a broad brush, but the vast majority of patients that we see are not necessarily real world patients. They're hand me
Mhm,
down, the try before. There are people
mhm.
coming in forever and a day. And you think
Yeah.
about this in our model, there are some institutions that bill insurance, some that don't.
Uh-huh,
I don't know what the percentages are, but I know in a lot of clinics, they're charging patients like $5 and
uh-huh.
$2 and $8. How can you not have a poverty complex when you come out of an environment where there's really not a lot of value placed on your care, and now you're gonna go out, and if you're gonna make ends meet, you need to be charging 50 and 60 and 7,
Sure,
whatever your number is for your
sure.
area, and it's like, "Oh my god, I can't charge that because we always charged 5 or
Yeah,
8." You
yeah.
you you compare that to med school, and I've never
Uh-huh.
been to med school, but I did start the VA program, that is part of the University Medical Center, and it was amazing to see the difference in the training because they came in and from day one, they're writing notes, they're learning the CPT codes, they're heavily involved in the third party world. So those
Yep.
students grow up inside of a model that is more business-like and more like it's
Uh-huh,
gonna be when they get into practice,
uh-huh.
and ours tends to not do that as much, and
Yeah, so
wish they would shift or could shift to where the clinics are a primary source of income. Tuition's great, but why not build a model that helps sustain the college, hopefully give some relief at some point on the tuition side because you got a very profitable service delivery,
yep.
through your clinics or multiple clinics, and so I
I
think
think
poverty
yeah,
mindset
I think
begins early on as in reinforced in some of the business practices that we experience when we're students.
mhm, mhm, and I love that we have to I think chiropractic school is there's so much just opinion and controversy, but they're designed to help people pass the boards. And whether you think boards are a good idea or not, that's like not what I'm trying to debate right now. But
Right.
they exist to get us licensed so that we can go out and make a difference for our community. And in order to do that, we have to have a license, and that's okay. Like we have to prove that we're not going to harm the public. So, what I would love to see is obviously learn the anatomy, understand the physiology, learn the x-ray, whatever you got to do. But in the beginning, just like I remember very much being exposed to philosophy and understanding the why and like what is our tenets, we need to start having these mindset classes and business classes from the beginning, and having people that are actually successful in business teaching the classes, not people who have failed and gone back to school to get a salaried job because they can't do it. And what I know you experienced this, and we always knew like those that can't do teach, and it should be the other way around. Those that can do should teach. And because like I come from like my success and my practice and um my ability to provide for my family, like I, from abundance, get to go back to Palmer and teach. And I actually did the math just this morning because I got the contract for teaching Blair because I'm going back to Palmer to teach the Blair elective for the students in the spring. And I think it equals like $50 an hour. And I mean, I make way more than that adjusting in my clinic, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, gosh, like if I had a poverty mindset, I'd be like, well, that's not worth it. My time's more valuable. But what I get to do is I get to have the opportunity to go back into that school and excite people and hopefully show people that it is 100% possible to do Blair as your primary technique and be wildly successful, and lead teams and be in leadership and grow. And so it's an honor that I get to have the opportunity to go back to the school that I went to and teach students that probably weren't even born, like truth be told, when I was coming on the scene or even in chiropractic school, which is such a wild thing to think because I'm still 25 in my mind.
Yeah.
And I think that in investing in the mindset and the business from the jump of the education. So the sooner that the successful docs can get back into giving back to the profession through teaching them, through having clinics in their own, maybe in their own office, and having pre-chiropractic students come in and learn about it, I think that that's the ticket, because money and resource follows value, and we have to value what it is that we're giving, and the people that receive it have to value it and say, in exchange, I'd like to give you this thing called money. And so it's so important. And I don't know why it's not happening, but I want to change it. So I'm going to do my best to be the
It'd be a
part of
great
the
idea.
change.
I mean, there's technique clubs.
Yep.
It's great to know a lot of techniques, but if your wiring is screwed up for whatever reason, um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I think it's
And
great.
there's like a 4-hour conversation we could have about the wiring and like the influence that we had with the who knows what kind of trauma we grew up with. And I'm sorry, as a human, we can't escape trauma, we can't escape trial, but it's our responsibility to look at it and work on it. And so I think that's one of the best things that I've been a part of, and having a coach back to that conversation is just looking at the way that I think about things and recognizing just because I thought it doesn't mean it's real.
So I've got a couple of just for fun questions while we wrap
Sure.
up. Who's your hero and why?
Oh my gosh. That's a good question. My hero. Um, the first person that came to mind, it sounds kind of corny, but it's my husband.
Right.
I've seen him overcome so many things, and if people listening to this that have known my story and known our journey, the fact that I can even say that is a miracle beyond miracles. But I am so impressed with him looking dead in the face the things that scared him the most, and he took it head on challenge, and he's done the work, and now he leads with such grace and with such strength. I feel safe to follow him. So my husband is my hero.
What talent do you have that most people don't know about?
Um,
The
I don't
moment of
know.
truth.
I know. I'm like an open book. I don't know, what talent do I have? I think that most people don't know that I have the talent of just like having the ability to see things from a lot of different perspectives and be the devil's advocate. I'm very opinionated, just like you. I'm the author of the best opinion in the world, my own, and but I do have the ability to see perspective and bring in questions that get people thinking, and I don't think people know that about me.
Unfortunately, that is a very lost skill these days. When we look at the dysfunction on our state, national level, we've lost the ability to um, to even entertain other people's perspective or thoughts.
Yeah.
That's a topic for
Another day.
but it absolutely is a wonderful skill set. I think they used to call that, that's what happens when you're 69 and you get a little bit it'll come around the track, a little bit
No
later.
problem.
Yeah. Well, doctors, if you're offering discounts, make sure you're not violating state or federal rules on dual fee schedules, inducements, or any kickback laws. The fines are no joke. Our profitable discount strategy keeps your discounts fully compliant and profitable. It starts with a free, no obligation call to see if we can help you, just like we've helped thousands of other doctors nationwide. Many of our doctors have seen a 20% increase in their revenue and a 50% patient retention within our network members. For 18 years, over 7,000 chiropractors have helped 4.3 million patient family members get affordable care through ChiroHealth USA. If you want more revenue, better retention, and peace of mind, call us at 888-719-9990 or visit CHUSA.com, that's CHUSA.com, to see why ChiroHealth USA is the network that works for chiropractic and you. Make it a great day. Thanks so much, Elizabeth.
My pleasure.